Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the People and Health Overview Committee, 9th November. And I'm going to start by asking my colleagues to introduce themselves so that anyone watching from outside knows who is here. I'm the Vice Chairman and chairing today because there has been a change in responsibilities within the local authority. And if I call out the name, can you indicate if it's here? Rod Atkins, are you present?
Present, yes.
Thank you. Tony Alford? No. Pete Burrow, I understand, is going to be late, did you say, Hayley?
Yes, that's correct, Chairman.
Jean Dunseith?
Present, yeah. Chairman.
Thanks, Jean. Beryl Ezard? No. And Ryan Holloway?
Present, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Stella Jones?
Present.
Thank you, Stella. Rebecca Knox?
Present, Chairman.
And we have an apology from Mike Parks. Thank you. Can I just remind you that I would remind you, as we've already been told, to keep your cameras off and your microphones muted until you're called to speak. And can you indicate that you wish to speak by indicating in the chat bar that you request to speak? Thank you. And can the officers introduce themselves as we go into each item? I think is probably sensible. Can I remind you, in consultation with group leaders, the Chief Executive has exercised his delegated powers to revert to virtual informal meetings of council committees until the webcasting equipment has been installed and tested. Members are advised that where a decision was required, the appropriate corporate director will be the responsible individual to make the decision whilst considering the views expressed by the wider committee membership. The reports on today's agenda are for review by the committee, to seek comments from the committee and support for the direction of future work, and also provide the committee with information to determine if any additional areas should be added to the forward plan for further review. So, apologies. Do we have any apologies, Fiona?
Just from Mike Parks, Chairman.
Thank you. And declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Good morning, Councillor Alford. I see you staring sadly at your screen. And public participation. Can I welcome Anna Webb? Well, we've had a question from Anna Webb about the Queen Elizabeth Leisure Centre. So, and who wants to read that question? Or do you want me to read that question?
Chairman, if you'd like to read the question, Councillor Miller will provide the response.
Thank you. And Anna Webb has said very simply, having read the submission of the GP Referral Scheme members, we would like to know your proposals for keeping this vitally needed service either at this venue, Queen Elizabeth Leisure Centre, or a similar site. And Councillor Miller, you are replying to that question. Good morning, Councillor Miller.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, you can see the written response up on the screen. And thank you, Anna, for your question. Obviously, we've provided a written response to you, but I won't read it out because everybody hopefully can see it and you'll have that for your records. What I do want to say is that we need a little bit of time just to crunch the data and the responses and what's come back in from the consultation. It would be wrong of me to answer this with a definitive anything, because we need to hear what people have said first. So once we have that data, once we know what people have said, once we've looked at our ways forward, our potential ways forward, then I'll be able to discuss this more fully. I don't want to sort of guess at what people have said. But thank you for the question, because the GP referral scheme is a really important scheme. I've actually used it myself, and I think you know, we can all be aware of the benefits of health and well-being within our communities, however it's provided. So I'm grateful for the question, and we will keep people posted with what the responses have been to that consultation. Many thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. We now move on. Questions for members. There are no questions submitted, so we go straight into the update on the care leaver offer. Councillor Parry, I know, hopes to join us as he's the cabinet member responsible. But Louise, I believe you're going to take us through this. Or Teresa, is it you, Teresa? Or Louise, anyway.
No, actually, Sarah Jane Smedmore, the corporate director, will take you through the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Jane.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity for us to bring back an update regarding our very important care leaver offer. So we last came to you in April, and this report is way of an update of the work that we've been doing from April until October this year. And you'll see that we came to you with a financial policy that we were looking to implement, and we have successfully implemented this. So making sure that our care leavers have monies for birthdays and festivals, and ensuring that we had our direction really was to ensure that our offer was as fair as it possibly could be. And feedback from our care leavers is that they feel we've achieved this, and it's working very well. We've also been actively looking to increase our care leaver offer, as you'll see from the paper, and we've been joined now by Councillor Kirby and previously by Councillor Somper in chairing our care leaver delivery group. And you'll see from the paper that this group is together to make sure that we're looking at our care leaver offer and the 5 pillars of that offer, which we know are crucial really to making sure that our care leavers have all of the right support that they should have from us, and also partners and wider community. And Madam Chair, I've got Louise Drury, who's our Head of Children in Care, and Kirsten Hallett, who's the team manager for our care leaver team, who are here, Louise can just add some more detail around the work that we're doing for the care leaver offer and under that delivery group, under those 5 pillars, if it would be okay to do that at this point.
Thank you. Yes, if you'd like to give us your additional comments.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Louise Drury. As Sarah Jane said, I'm the Head of Service for Children in Care and our care leavers. I would just like to welcome the opportunity to talk through some of the additional areas which are included in this paper. So one of these is around the Ask Jan membership, which has been implemented since the 1st of June this year. So this membership has been developed to assist our care leavers, care experienced people of all ages, allowing them access to a comprehensive practical advice and support and additional benefits. And these include a 24-hour counselling helpline and also up to 8 face-to-face counselling sessions where these have been assessed as being and agreed with the counsellor. In addition, we have been engaging with our Care Leaver Covenant and working with the National Care Leaver Covenant on 2 fronts. So this is really primarily to expand the internal offer across all council departments to offer services and or experiences for our care leavers. So including identifying a care leaver champion in each directorate. And we are, as Sarah Jane described, we have our care leaver delivery group, which is now chaired by Councillor Kirby. And the focus, one of the focus of this delivery group will be to ensure that the activity that is being undertaken within the Care Leaver Covenant is monitored and promoted. Also, the Care Leaver Covenant are working with us to engage and encourage our local businesses, charities and organisations, so providing a much strengthened offer to engage with our care experienced young people, and also thinking about how our businesses can contribute to the development and opportunities for our young people too. Co-production with our care leavers. So through the New Belongings programme, our care leavers have been invited to work with staff to recognise the bright spots in our current delivery and to work with us on areas that could be further improved. And to ensure that we have an ongoing temperature check, there will be a further survey in January 2022 to go out to our young people just to see how we are progressing with what we have agreed we said we would do. Sarah Jane has talked about the care leaver delivery group and described how this is going to be feeding into our corporate parenting board. And so the 5 areas that we're working on really is around independent living, employment, education and training, safety and security, health and support, and financial stability. Now, a key area for us is ensuring that we are improving housing options for our care leavers. And in doing so, we have developed a joint protocol which has been signed by our corporate directors in children's services and in our housing services. And our next steps with that will be to take that for wider discussion in our care leaver delivery group and also our corporate parenting board too. And what this will ensure is that all care leavers living in Dorset are placed on gold banding and are supported by the local authority as a guarantor to secure accommodation for those seeking private rented accommodation. In addition, we are pushing further to ensure that we have more affordable housing. And in doing this, we have a roundtable event that is planned shortly so that we can explore what else is possible for our care leavers. We also held a really successful national series of events during National Care Leavers Week. So this was really an opportunity for us to celebrate National Care Leaver Week between the 21st and 28th of October. There were a number of events which were co-produced by our care leavers, included work with the Care Leaver Covenant, inviting businesses to be part of that, but also asking, having the opportunity to ask our care leavers really pertinent questions so that we are ensuring that our services and our activities are really informed by them. So in terms of our next steps, just building on the opportunities for co-production, we're working really closely with our participation colleagues, so Kay Wright, who is working alongside us, ensuring that services that we are developing are designed and developed by our young people. And also looking at ensuring that there are the clear pathways for our care leavers to access timely help with mental health, and possibly thinking about, we have a really great, our Steps to Wellbeing in the council provides a really fantastic service to council employees, and I think it would be worth us exploring, well, is it possible for us to extend that more widely to think about our care experienced young people? And one thing that we have heard consistently in a number of places through our work with New Belongings and also during Care Leavers Week is that to ensure that what we have published needs to be in a really accessible format. So that, anything that we have on our council web pages needs to be something that is really accessible for our young people. We have talked about having an app in the past, but out of the mouths of babes, really, our young people are saying actually we don't want an app because it's really draining on our phone. So we have to work to really strengthen how we have that outward facing information being available for our young people. Thank you very much.
I'd muted myself. Right, Louise, are we back to you?
I think we might be back to Sarah Jane unless there are any questions.
Sorry, yeah.
Thank you, Louise. So nothing further for me to add, Madam Chair, just to see if there are any questions. Hopefully we can answer.
Councillor Holloway and Councillor Somper have indicated they want to speak. Are these questions specifically at this point? Councillor Holloway, would you like to speak? And welcome to Councillor Ezard, who has now joined us.
Good morning, everyone. No, just a brief question is that, first of all, I'd like to welcome and thank you for obviously putting this report. As also as a member of the Corporate Parenting Board, is this report going to be going to our next formal meeting?
Chair, if I could answer that question.
Yes, please.
Yes, we absolutely, Councillor Holloway. So we'll be bringing an update to the next meeting. I think it's the 6th of December, thereabouts, on our care leaver offer, and updates from the care leaver delivery group at that point into the board. And indeed, it's a standing agenda item for the corporate parenting board to have updates every other meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that question. No, that's what I really needed to know. And just like to add, Madam Chair, is that I'd just like to obviously just welcome and certainly good luck to Councillor Kirby in his new role for the lead member.
Indeed, thank you. I should have done that myself. Thank you very much for saying that. Councillor Somper, you wish to speak?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'm really proud of this piece of work. The team who worked tirelessly on it were incredible and worked at speed, actually, and got an awful lot done in a really quick pace. What I aim and hope to do is to continue this work in my new role in adult services, because obviously these are care leavers and they're becoming adults and things don't change. So and I feel very closely connected, obviously, to it, having worked on it with these amazing people here today. So I want to just assure the team anyway, and Councillor Kirby, who I'm going to hopefully be working closely with as well, that this will become, I'm going to make sure it's on the map as well for adults, and that it becomes an area of priority as well, and to ensure preventative and support services are available to our care leavers, because I know how important these services are, and that access to them, and ease of access to them, and so feeding into the work that you're doing, continuing to do that, I think it's going to be really vital. And as I said, I'm really proud of that piece of work and that team. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, and I think, can we add?
Have we lost Madam Chairman?
Oh, I'm back.
You're back.
I'm here. Thank you, Stella. If Stella is there.
Yes, there's some very good ideas here for the care leavers, and especially the Reese Foundation. And I just wondered if we also help in similar ways to youngsters who have been in care and gone back to families, or the ones who we think might very soon need care, because some of these ideas would help lots of young people.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to respond to that question?
Madam Chairman, should I come back in to respond to that?
Yes,
so, Councillor Jones, thank you. I think you're absolutely right. And the more work that we do, we realise that it actually reaches into and leans into the work that we do to support many of our young people. And definitely through our harbour, you'll be aware of our harbour, who work with adolescents. We are increasing our services, not just to work with children who are 17, 18, 19, 20, or young people who have just been in our care. Obviously, we have responsibilities to children who are in our care and care leavers, but children who haven't, to make sure that we stay alongside them and support them in the best possible way, because we know that that transition into adulthood is a time of real challenge for most young people, but particularly if maybe they haven't got the supports and infrastructure around them. So we're learning our best lessons really from this important work and what our young people tell us, and making sure that we reach across where we can, but keeping a very clear eye, obviously, on our statutory responsibilities as corporate parents for our children in care and care leavers. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I have no other requests to speak that I can see at this point in time. Otherwise, can I then remind you that the recommendation is to support Dorset Council having a clear framework which will set out the offer and entitlements for care leavers. And I'm going to suggest that unless someone disagrees with that, that we ask the the Chief Executive to make that decision in support of our recommendation. Does anyone disagree with the recommendation? Okay, then I guess at this point, Teresa, we come back to you to actually tell us that you will operate this.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. So, having considered all of the discussion and the papers today, I am minded to make such decision, taking on board the helpful contributions. And I would also like to give a vote of thanks to Councillor Somper for having really made a fantastic start and great progress on that area of work, and a welcome to Councillor Kirby to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. Should we now move to the next item, which is Dorset Centre of Excellence Commissioning of Places, and that's to review and comment. And who is leading on that? Is that you again, Teresa, or Vic? Hello, Vic. Good morning. So would you like to
take you through the report? Thank you.
If you'd like to introduce yourself, Vic, and then we can discuss this.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chairman and committee. So the report we're presenting today is about the new provision in the north of the county, known as the Dorset Centre of Excellence, but was formerly known as the St Mary's School in Shaftesbury. The paper, as set out, seeks to, I suppose, establish our role as the commissioner of places. So we play a particular role in terms of the commissioning of placements in all special schools in Dorset, but also in the future special school that will be at the Centre of Excellence. And as colleagues will know, the SEND capital strategy, which was approved in January of this year, also included partly the purchase of this particular site, but also a wider expansion of specialist provision across Dorset as well, alongside our strategies around inclusion to ensure that more of our children can have their needs met in mainstream settings, all with a view to managing our high needs block and ensuring that we're targeting those funds to those children who need it absolutely the most. In terms of this particular project, we've analysed our cohort of children. When we were first establishing the business case around St Mary's, we identified that approximately 1/3 of all children with an education, health and care plan live within about 50 minutes of the Centre of Excellence, which means that it allows a number of our children who may be travelling much further than that out of county to be educated close to home. But we also know, and as set out in the paper, that not all children with an education, health and care plan would best have their needs met at this particular school, and we need to make sure that we're balancing the cohort of children that absolutely can have their needs met at this school with those that could have their needs met in other settings. So through that analysis, we've identified the categories of need that we think the special school can support, and each special school, including those in Dorset, support a different cohort of children. And in particular, we would be focusing at St Mary's on children with social, emotional, mental health needs, but with more of an externalised anxiety, which may be children who are around average ability or 2 years below age-related expectations, but actually have some behavioural and other needs that may need their needs met in a smaller class size with a particular therapeutic input, etc. We will also be supporting children with underlying average ability, with autism or other associated social communication needs, and then also children with learning difficulties such as speech and language communication needs or specific learning difficulties, and that's set out in the report. So as we seek to work with families to identify our cohort of children that we feel can best have their needs met, we will also be working very closely with the school in terms of the head teacher of the school and at the Centre of Excellence, alongside our professionals within the council, to both ensure that this is the right placement for their children, but also to think about the transition process and make sure there is a very well managed transition, both from the council to support children in being identified and moving to the new school, but also for the school to then support them and accommodate them as they move across. So the paper sets out, I suppose, those three key areas in terms of how we will identify the cohort of children that we seek to place, that transition process, and then the model within the school. And specifically in terms of the council's statutory duty, it's as the commissioner of places, and the school will have its own admissions arrangements and detail around how it will specifically admit, but we've set out a process of a collaboration between the school and the local authority in managing that transition across. So I'll stop there and happy to take questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I have no one requesting to speak at this point in time. Aha, Stella, you've just asked to speak.
Yes. First of all, youngsters are going to this school. Are you, once they're at the school, will they stay there? Or some of them will be going back to mainstream? Is that the aim, or whether they are the ones who will never go back to mainstream in your view? And secondly, the youngsters who are now in out of county areas and independent settings, how much notice will you have to give those settings that the youngsters will be moving on to St Mary's? Because obviously we have to pay and they'll want their money.
Thank you. So in answer to the first question, there are examples of children in Dorset special schools at the moment where they have attended for a number of years and then moved back into mainstream because you know, they felt able to. It is more rare. Quite often when children are placed in a special school, they'll then see out that phase of education in the special school. So the expectation would be that the majority of children that attend the Centre of Excellence would receive most of their education for that phase of education in the setting. But if there was an opportunity through our review processes to bring that child back into a mainstream setting in a managed way, then that could be a success for the child as much as for the school and family as well. So, in terms of notice to independent schools, we would follow the child in terms of making sure that there is a managed transition from their current setting, because as you'll know, if children are placed out of county, you know, we need to make sure that we're picking the right moment for them to move back in, and also working very closely with the child and the family in terms of whether the new school can meet their needs best. So it would all be part of the transition process set out in the document, and we'd be working very closely with the family alongside with our professionals. So we have allocated a educational psychologist from our team to work closely with the cohort to think about when the right time might be, and if the new setting is not right for that child, then obviously we wouldn't pursue that.
Thank you.
And the parent still has the right to say they don't want their child to go to that setting, even if you think it's the best place for them.
I think my hope would be that the setting at St Mary's is offering such an incredible curriculum and fantastic. I mean, as you'll have seen some of the sites and some of what may be on offer there. So my hope would be that parents are seeing a great opportunity for their children to have an all-through education on a fabulous site, but of course we'd work closely with families to make sure that it's right for them and most importantly right for the child as they're preparing for adulthood.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Alford, you've requested to speak.
And thank you. I will apologise in advance if this seems a little bit off topic, but it is something that occurred to me while reading this paper, and that is about the governance arrangements for this centre. And I think what has been trying to be done is to draw a distinction between the provider activity, i.e. the centre, and the commercial, the commissioning activity, that is the council. But it does seem to me that it's not quite as simple as that, because the council, as commissioner, controls the provider, through voting and can put whatever people it wants there to manage the business. So I just wonder how that's really going to work, whether it is really going to be possible to draw that distinction between commissioning and providing in practice.
Vic, would you like to reply? Or Teresa, whichever of you.
I saw Teresa come up, so I didn't know if Teresa wants to come in.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Alford. It's a helpful question, and I think we talk a lot actually in our commissioning board about how we make sure we keep the distinction and those clear, clean lines between both the shareholder group and the commissioning body and the independent company itself. And you're right, there are many layers within this, not least because we have the special educational needs school and we have other delivery options on site of Dorset Centre of Excellence. So it's absolutely essential that we behave commercially across that whole piece. So even though the requirement for the schools are very prescribed, an independent school has to do certain things by legislation and registration, and so we could just take that as read, but we're not. We're absolutely defining and specifying that within a commissioning contract with the company, so that we do have those really clear critical lines between the school delivery and the local authority as commissioner. Now, clearly, quite rightly, we are being very prescriptive in that, and maybe more prescriptive than you would be with any other ordinary business. But that is the strength of the offer, actually, in that we can work together to be creative, but also have a very clear and strong performance culture around that. So I think actually it is the best of both worlds. It does mean that we can create and innovate, and yet also have a really clear performance delivery framework to that. So that's not just for the school, but for the whole of the Dorset Centre of Excellence site. As that all comes together, that will be published documents which you'll be able to have complete oversight of here and elsewhere, and we'll go through scrutiny too. But thank you for your question.
Thank you. Do you want to come back, or is that does that answer your question?
Yes, I would like to come back just very briefly, please, because you have got a limited company, and certainly in the commercial world, where there are rules that you wish to establish associated with a limited company, you would agree what's called a shareholders agreement, and that would define the way the company operates. And it's something that I think by analogy you will need in this case.
And we do have that, Councillor Alford. So that's exactly what the commissioning board are working through at the present time, both in terms of the relationship with the limited company, but also the commissioning that goes on therein. Because whilst we expect, particularly with the school element, that we will be the primary customer, we may not be the only customer. We may well find that there are other local authorities within the area that would wish to also purchase placements from the school. So we're looking at that from a very clear commercial line alongside our own articles in terms of how that works and our relationship with the shareholders. And clearly having an independent chair of the board will also be helpful with that. So more on that as it all comes to fruition in the next few weeks.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Alford?
That is very helpful, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Knox, you are next.
Thank you, Chairman. It's maybe slightly related, I'm not sure. I would just like to have assurance from officers that when looking at the pupils who are attending the school, there are some confusion on words here. So the site has to operate commercially. We know that special schools receive greater funding from children who come from out of county. That can often give rise to tension between the acceptance of a Dorset child versus, say, I don't know, a Devon child, because the school will receive more funding from Devon. I would just like to hear from officers that the preference will always be to children who reside in Dorset, as opposed to, and there's nothing against Wiltshire, I love Wiltshire, but Wiltshire, Hampshire, Somerset, whatever. I hope you get what I'm saying. And I am a governor and have been a governor of a special school for over 10 years. And I know it is a problem at times.
Thank you
So
for that.
can you give me that assurance, please?
Happy to respond. So the rates in terms of children attending. So there's a couple of things here. I think firstly, given the proximity to the border, it's inevitable that there will be some children just over the border in Wiltshire that might see that they're best placed at the Centre of Excellence. But the majority of places that we will be commissioning as a council will be for Dorset children, very specifically because that's what our business case and the cabinet approval to purchase the site was for. So that will be set out in the way that we commission places with the school. Sorry, Councillor Knox, can you hear me? Is that you can? Okay, thank you. So we will have very clearly the vast majority of places commissioned for our children, in particular to bring children who are in expensive out of county placement. So on average, they can be between £55,000 to £60,000 in an independent out of county, and that's not including the transport bill that comes with that. Obviously, by bringing those children much closer to home, we know we can deliver that provision for anywhere between £20,000 to £30,000 and transport, very little transport cost. And the associated impact on the climate as well. So there would be a saving absolutely for our children coming home to have their education within the county. Some places may be offered to neighbouring authorities, but absolutely the vast majority would be for our children. And this isn't about essentially a profit model. This is about actually making sure that we're using our high needs block effectively to commission places for our children. And as I said, the difference in cost between the two out of county and in county provisions is what would create that saving.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, I have you down next.
Madam Chairman, can I just add to that response a little before maybe Councillor Knox may want to come back? It is within our commissioning framework that priority is for Dorset children. The reality is we may well also have capacity within the school and on site for more than we need in that given moment. So what we're looking to do, so the first entrants are absolutely Dorset children, and we're looking to bring that in a really managed way. This isn't about, as you all completely appreciate, this is around children really matching into that space and bringing that forward gently and slowly, and that's going to be Dorset children first. All of our commissioning priorities will be for Dorset children within Dorset places. But that doesn't mean that we won't also at the same time have other people, because we think there'll be capacity to do both. And so it's about getting that balance. But in terms of, the absolute message is this is a Dorset school for Dorset children, where it's right and proper to do so. And it brings income into that space and therefore supports us within that commercial arrangement. We will also offer it to others.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Knox? Are you satisfied?
Nearly. I've got another question, but I'll let others go forward, and I'll ask mine after, if that's all right, Chairman.
Okay. I have Councillor Taylor wanting to speak.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, team. Excellent report, I must say. It's nice to see that we're actually getting involved with all areas of our society of children and young adults. My question really is, I think I related this to a meeting last week as well. It's question 1.15, stating the children's ages 5 to 19. I thought we were looking at the possibility of looking after children till 25. I may be completely wrong here, but that's what I was thinking was going on.
Happy to respond to that. So our duties are to children 0 to 25. Specifically, the educational aspect of the school will be 5 to 19, but there will be opportunities as we work with our colleagues in adult services around that preparation for adulthood. But sometimes that isn't about formalised education. That's about opportunities for employment as well, which is why the age cohort for admission is slightly different. we wouldn't seek to, I suppose, create necessarily a university model there. It's more about how we work with local employers, supported internships, apprenticeships, alongside our colleges as well, because there are fantastic opportunities within our colleges as well. So it will be essentially a 0 to 25 site, but specifically for the school, we are looking much more closely at that cohort where we know we have that need. But Teresa may want to add.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Councillor Taylor. Absolutely spot on. But for the registration for school, it's 0 to 19 for admissions. But there are so many opportunities, as we've talked about before, both in terms of horticultural opportunities or other workshop opportunities on site, to think about some supported accommodation, to think about flatlets on site where young people could have independent living opportunities. So we really do strongly see that as being an up to 25 and beyond offer. But this particular paper, just referring to the admissions criteria for the school, sticks with the registration criteria 0 to 19. But thank you for your question.
That's really great reply. Thank you very much. It's just I'm curious to see the lock-in effects from all other departments, and especially as you said about horticulture, Kingston Moorwood, things like that, actually linking across the Pan Dorset. But thank you very much for answering the question. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Councillor Alford, you put your name down to come back, but on the other hand, you then spoke after that. Are you still sitting on a question you wish to ask?
I've had my follow-up, thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca, you wanted to come back.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, a couple, if that's all right, please. Have we actually looked at the number? I'm sure we have, but I can't seem to find it in the report. There's lots of data in there, which is great, but I can't see the number of young people we currently have being educated out of county, and whether we've done any analysis of how many of those this new school will actually ensure come back into county. Is it 100% or 50%? No.
So we have been doing that analysis. I haven't got the specific number of children that we would I suppose be deeming kind of eligible or where this school could meet needs best. So I can come back to you after the meeting with the specific on the answer to that. But we know, as I say, specifically around 1.11 in the report, which is 3 criteria that we've established in terms of what we feel the school could support in terms of the need it supports, and essentially the teaching model that it will set up and the curriculum it will set up to meet that need is quite specifically focused on children both within the county where we particularly have need in the north, but also children that we know are out of county that we feel we can bring them back. So within Dorset, our 2 highest areas of primary need are children with autism, but also children with SEMH, social emotional mental health needs, which can manifest in 2 ways, either kind of, I suppose, a more kind of introverted anxiety type SEMH, but also extroverted externalized anxiety. And we've set out within the report specifically the needs that we think the school can meet. So we've very much done that analysis, in particular on the independent outer county, to make sure the school can meet that need. But I wouldn't expect it to meet 100% of that need, and that's why there are other projects across the county to look at, for example, the expansion of Bowcroft School and other projects that are coming online as part of our wider capital strategy to meet some of the other needs that we wouldn't be able to meet in this setting.
Okay. May I have one more go, Chairman?
Oh, I think you can, Rebecca.
Thank you. So that would be really interesting to see, and I'm very, very grateful to hear that actually this is a fantastic project. But actually, you're not just abandoning the rest of the special school delivery, because some of that is absolutely excellent as well. So if the whole package is going to address a lot of the out of county issues, then that would be. I'd really like to hear about that. I would also like to and just explore the school nurse. I see that you're going to have many various, of course, specialists working in partnership with the CCG. Having had an experience of where school nurse we've never really got to the bottom of who pays for the school nurse, and I'd imagine you are going to need a school nurse at this site. I don't need the answer now, but I hope that really is going to be explored, because it just comes round and round and round, and it's very unsatisfactory that it isn't actually falling under the a CCG expense. So please look at that. And also on the health and wellbeing section, it would have been good in the assessment and health in all policies, which I know you've got it in this paper, which is quite rare still at Dorset Council, so thank you very much for putting it in, would be to actually identify which part of the JSNA you're addressing in that in reports. That'd be really helpful, and don't worry, I'll be asking everybody to do that. So thank you. But school nurse issue, be interesting to hear your thoughts at some stage on that.
Thank you, Councillor Knox. If I could just respond, please, Madam Chairman. It's really helpful and a really helpful discipline which we will take back in terms of all of our reports around the JSNA. I think that we are looking at evidencing impact everywhere we can. It's a big priority for us this year. So that's really helpful reminder for us all. Therapies generally, and having them closer to children where they are, seems to us all, I'm sure, a bit of a no-brainer really, and where our children are a lot of the time in their weekly life is in school. And so our ambition is to think about how we can have more of those therapies available to them closer to where they are, rather than having families having the stress and expense of tracking around into different spaces. I think in time, the Dorset Centre of Excellence and the school in particular will be able to be a really important model for how you can do this effectively. And having those conversations with our CCG colleagues, having those conversations with our public health colleagues who of course commission the Healthy Child processes, are really important for us to take forward. So thank you for your push on that, because that is something we really want to see delivered here.
Thank you. Councillor Ezard.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I do apologise for being late. Technical problems. Yes, this is a very good paper. A couple of things I'd like clarified, actually. With the intake being 60 each year for a number of years, I presume, that will total to what full capacity in the end? And will that possibly increase over the years? And I noticed that 500 SEND children are actually educated, well, out of county or in special schools at the moment. So will it go up to 500, or is that actually accommodated in other schools in the county as well, in like Beaufort? So could you clarify those couple of points, please?
Yes, happy to clarify. So the Centre of Excellence and the school here will start with an initial cohort of 60 children, in particular to ensure that there's a managed transition in. It's obviously a new school, and to make sure we manage the growth of the school carefully to ensure that all of those children are having their needs met. Over time, and I think it's in 1.15, we anticipate the school growing to approximately 280 places. And that'll be in a managed way over a 2 to 3 year period. So we'll see those numbers climb alongside the school building up its own capacity to support those children. So specifically on your question about the number of children out of county, it's between 250 and 300 children that are currently being educated out of county. So not as high as 500, but 250 to 300. And a number of those would obviously then we hope see their education within the county in the new Centre of Excellence. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think so. Thank you. It's just that what is the full capacity of the Centre of Excellence? And will that be developed over the years or not? And would any of the children be actually staying there, or are they all coming in as day pupils?
So initially for day placements, so we see capacity in terms of education for approximately 280 places, and I deliberately say approximately because the admissions for a special school doesn't quite follow the PAN, the published admissions number, as you have in a mainstream school. So it will be around 280, but we wouldn't see it drop significantly below or above that. So 280 is the planned size of the school. It would make it one of the biggest special schools in Dorset by a fair distance as well. And in terms of residential placements, the site actually has quite good residential facilities for a special school. It's something we will continue to look at, and over time we do see an opportunity around having some children living on the site as well as having their education there as well. But Teresa may want to add.
Thank you. Teresa, do you wish to come in?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Azada, a really helpful question. As we've said all the way through, our ambition for this site is large and bold. We must progress steadily to be successful. So our first position is to make sure that we successfully bring on stream the right number of children up to that level of about 260. There are other opportunities on site around residential provision, short-term respite, longer-term homes for children. There's opportunities around residential, opportunities around training flats, as I've said already, and there's other opportunities around having training centre, etc. Those outline plans for a 2 to 3 year plan are all there, but we are being very mindful to get everything steadily established. So putting in a request for registration for the independent school, it's really important that we have that crisp and clean and steady in order for Ofsted to feel comfortable with that and for DFE to feel comfortable with that. So we're doing that first, but it doesn't mean that we're not looking at other opportunities alongside that, but in very much in a sequenced way so that we can be confident about managing the effectiveness of the site.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Peter, I have you next. Peter Burrow.
Thank you, Chair. A comment and a question, if I might. The comment really is this is a great news story. I mean, I've been to the site, I've seen it, it's absolutely fantastic. It's great to see FE being talked about as a viable alternative to HE as well, because it's not all about HE. So, you know, in all inspirational stuff, and well done, everyone. The question is, if we've got youngsters who are out of county and it's deemed that they're suitable to go to the Centre of Excellence, but they're happy where they are and they're not at a transition stage, can we seek an assurance that they won't just be moved anyway? You know, we will take notice of the fact that obviously moving them is disruptive, and it's a balanced decision. It's not just about whether the needs can be met at the Centre of Excellence, but it's also as to whether the child should actually be moved out of somewhere where they're happy and settled and doing well. So that's the question.
Thank you, Peter. Who wishes to take the question?
I'm happy to answer that. This is about, I think we in Children's Services fully appreciate how disruptive it is when we're moving children, whether it be for care or whether it be for educational reasons. And I think the reason we've resourced this particular project very carefully with educational psychologists and colleagues to work closely with families is to make sure that it is absolutely right, and also that the curriculum that the school is offering is right for that child, because we may have children who are educated out of county where this isn't the right school for them, and we may also find that over time, as we build more sufficiency in places like Bowcroft School in the east and other parts of the county, that might be a more appropriate setting. So it's about working carefully with our families, and also making sure we're picking the right moment for that child to move, such as a end of a key stage, so that we can work carefully at not disrupting their education and making sure they can achieve their potential. But I think on the flip side, we've had a number of families contact who have expressed an interest, who live very close to the setting and are in an independent setting, and are really waiting for the opening in order to start that conversation with us about whether it's the right setting and how the transition might work. So there'll be a balance of possibly some families where this school can't meet need but want to come here, and we'll have to manage that very carefully, but also others where it can meet need but perhaps the family doesn't want it. So we'll just continue that conversation and communication with families and manage that very carefully with our professionals alongside us to make sure that it is the right offer.
Thank you. Peter, does it answer your question?
It does mainly. Just a quick follow-up. If there's a disagreement between yourselves and the family as to what the best course of action is, how's that resolved? Is there some sort of appeals process, or can somebody independent look at it? I mean, is there a stage that you can go to if there is a failure to agree?
I think if parent is absolutely settled in their current setting, then we would respect that and work closely with them to show the benefits of what's on offer at the Centre of Excellence. But we would need to work through. I mean, in terms of appeal, there are processes within the Code of Practice around appeals, but you know, this isn't a project about moving children and families, you know, against their will. This is very much about having a really compelling offer on a fantastic special school. It's a one of a kind special school, I think, in terms of the campus and the site and what's on offer there. So I think I hope that we don't get into that situation. And actually, it's, you know, we would find that out very early in working with our families as to how settled they are in their current settings. So I don't anticipate it being a challenge. I think we absolutely keep person-centred planning, working with our families and listening to both what the child wants, but also what our parents want in any part of our SEN work, not just in terms of moving children when they're coming to the end of a phase or for a new placement.
Thank you. Teresa, you twitched. Did you wish to say anything further?
I did, yeah. Well read, Madam Chairman. I did. I just wanted to thank Councillor Burrow for his question, because I really am incredibly grateful for people's engagement in this project. It is, as we all know, breaking new ground, and it's cutting edge, and it's so helpful to us to be reminded constantly of the things that people might be mindful of and thinking through. We are obviously going to go at the child's rate and at the family's rate. But I would say, in terms of some new requests that come to us at times from some families, is that, you know, we are working in a market area that some other providers can be very proactive in attempting to, you know, market themselves to gain children to come and join them, and that can feel very appealing to families at times, clearly, in terms of tiny class sizes or the things that, you know, we know families really want. So we are working in a place where we're wanting families to really fully sign up to St Mary's and the Dorset Centre of Excellence as soon as we possibly can, get the builders out of the way and get families in and around and seeing people, working with the teachers. So actually the first thing we're going to be looking to do to families that we want to engage with and we think are the right children to be coming to the school is to have some of the fantastic staff that we've already been able to recruit, the company's already been able to recruit, go and do some home visits, meet with families in their home, talk to them about what kind of school it's going to be, and then be able to increasingly take families onto visits so that they can experience that for themselves. So we know that it's, you know, it's going to be a different experience for people. It's new. It hasn't got as Councillor Knox said, we have got outstanding special schools already, you know, and their reputations are really strong. They're really positive. Our families know about those. That's great. And there are other kind of external providers who obviously market a particular type of offer. So we want to be able to be really showing out very quickly the Dorset Centre of Excellence and the schooling that's offered there. We just need to get the building bit finished.
Thank you, Teresa. Just a comment. Over the years, I've been saddened by, when I was having more to do with children with special educational needs and disabilities, saddened by the parents perceiving everything as being a battle, and it's how we overcome that. It's almost become an ingrained belief culture, whatever you like to call it, and hopefully we are trying to address that. It's a very sad situation if people do perceive it that way. Councillor Parry, you are the last on my list at the moment. The greatest always comes last, Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I did just want to reflect on this paper, if I may, just for a moment, because obviously I have been heavily involved myself in the acquisition of St Mary's and the planning around it. And the Dorset Centre of Excellence, because we had to start from the perspective of understanding that councils do not run schools. That is no longer our place. However, in establishing the company that's associated with with Dorset Council, we've created the correct vehicle, enabled to have an educational establishment for a very specific purpose of meeting special educational needs and disability, primarily for Dorset Council area. Now, our forecasting, and we started the starting point is always every child has a right to a mainstream education. and we have a responsibility to try and meet their needs in those settings. Unless they meet a certain criteria, where we take a stepped approach and we say, now is the right time for their needs to be met in a special school setting. And we have some fantastic special schools, as we've heard about them. And may I just take a moment to thank Rebecca for her continued work down at Mountjoy there. And she never misses an opportunity to badger me about how great a service they are doing at Mountjoy. And it's well known around children's services, as it is in our other school settings. I recently visited Westfield and others. So the Dorset Centre of Excellence is part of that solution. We forecast that we are going to need around about 500 additional special school places, and therefore we can accommodate and build up to 280 of those places being met at the Dorset Centre of Excellence. We've also heard about Bowcroft. There is more coming down the line, and some of that additional need will be met inside specialist provision inside mainstream schools. That is where we will intend to put some of our focus. We have the capital budget that has been agreed. We believe it'll be between 35 and 40 million pounds to make all these things happen. In respect of out of county placements, I want to see us get to the point where we have a very clear understanding that there is very good reason for a child's needs to be met out of county. And to me, for example, that could be that they're subject to a special guardianship order and foster care arrangements, perhaps with family members, which have placed them outside the area of Dorset. And that is the correct thing for that child to be done at that moment in time. However, I do not want to hear that we are fostering children out of county or having them educational needs met out of county for no other reason than we haven't got provision in county. And that's the place we need to get to. We want to meet the needs of our children in Dorset. We have a commitment to ensure that children and young people thrive. The other thing I would say is that when we talk about the capacity of our new provision, please understand that it is a phased approach. We don't open the doors and 280 pupils flood into St Mary's. We open with a cohort of about 60 and we settle them, and then we build the next cohort the following year, and so on and so on. The numbers build up. And the same will be true at the Harbour, over in Bovington, at Bowcroft, and our new provision that I hope we can announce publicly very, very imminently. So there's a lot going on, and as we've been able to demonstrate at pace, which I think is the important thing here. But it is a conversation with our families and our children and understanding their needs. And I often liken it to a flight in an aeroplane. You've gone through a bit of a turbulent journey, but now our job as the captains of the flight is to gently pilot the plane onto the runway and you to get off and feel quite happy and relieved to be at your new setting. That's really where we want to see young people be, in that really safe environment so that they can thrive, and we can do that. I'm very happy to take any questions from members today, but my thanks to your committee for your work and consideration of this, and I know the ongoing interest that we have from members in the area of children's services.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. Have I any questions for Councillor Parry or on this paper still unanswered? No one has yet indicated that they wish to speak. Oh, Cherry. Good morning, Cherry. Yes, please speak.
Good morning. It is a question for Councillor Parry. Councillor Knox mentioned that children outside of the area that were being educated outside of the area had a higher rate of funding. Does that mean that the children in Dorset, when they attend the special school that's going to be just over the border, would they attract a higher rate of funding, or would they attract the normal rate?
The Centre of Excellence is, to all intents and purposes, considered Dorset. I do appreciate the geography of it, puts it just over the borderline, but that doesn't affect the cost relating to out-of-county placements. Often out-of-county replacements are, they are in independent providers, and we are well aware that for a host of reasons there is quite a premium paid to them for their services, and therefore that's something we're trying to redress.
Thank you.
That answers your question, Councillor Brooks.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you.
And does anyone else wish to speak or ask a question? Otherwise, can I ask for your view on the recommendation? And that is that the committee note and support the work being done to identify and place children with SEND at the new Dorset Special School at the Dorset Centre of Excellence in Shaftesbury, that the committee provides challenge and support to ensure we meet the target to place children with SEND closer to home. So 2 parts to that recommendation. I propose to take them together unless anyone is unhappy with that, in which case please speak now or hold your peace. And I'm going to ask people to indicate if they disagree with the recommendation, please, by speaking. Otherwise, I will presume that we all do support the recommendation and will ask the director to actually implement it. Is anyone against this recommendation? If not, Teresa, can I have your input, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, committee, and thank you for your consideration of this report. And I note that you have considered it and that you have agreed to support the work and undertake that will be undertaking the identification of children with special educational needs who will attend the school at the Dorset Centre of Excellence. So I'm minded to agree your recommendation and thank you for your engagement today, which has been very, very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And the final, thank you. We next have the Committee and Cabinet Forward Plan. Have members any additional items they wish to be added to the forward plan? No, that doesn't mean you can't inform officers or the chairman of committee in any case as we move forward, but no one wants to speak at that moment. There are no urgent items. There is no exempt business. I therefore declare the meeting closed at 11:06 Apple time. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for your input this morning, and no doubt we will see each other virtually again before too long. Thank you.
Thank you.